Hello and welcome um, to the Saratoga Springs Candidate Forum for the Working's Family Party primary for the office of Commissioner of Accounts. Both candidates on the ballot for this primary were invited to attend, and both are participating. The event was organized and is moderated by the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County. It will be live streamed and recorded and posted on the League's website. The league rules require that if a candidate forum is recorded, it must be broadcast or rebroadcast in its entirety. My name is Deb Peck Kelleher, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County. I live in the town of Saratoga, and I will be your moderator tonight. The League of Women Voters of Saratoga County is a nonpartisan volunteer political organization dedicated to the informed and responsible participation of citizens in government. The League never supports or opposes any political party or candidate. This has been the League policy since 1920. Membership is open to everyone age 16 and older, so please consider joining your local league. We have received questions from the public in advance, and these were reviewed by league members, and questions were selected to be representative and to avoid redundancy. Questions of a personal nature are never included. Candidates, this is your opportunity to let voters know your stance on these topics and how you will address the issues facing our community. Please do not waste valuable time tearing down or labeling your opponent. Deal with facts. And in your closing, please do not put your opponent on the spot with no chance to reply. We have a timer for this evening who will hold up signs for the candidates to glance at. The green means 1 minute left to speak. Yellow means 30 seconds left, and red means stop. And your time is up. If you continue to speak, you may be interrupted by me. The names of our two candidates for this primary in alphabetical order are Joseph Levy and Dylan Moran. Now it is time to hear their 2-minute opening statements. They have drawn lots to determine their order. First to speak is Joseph Levy. Joseph, do you want to start your 2 minutes now?
Sure, anytime. Okay, well, greetings. Welcome to another rollicking evening of political theater, live from Saratoga Springs. I'm Joseph Levy, as I said. I'm a longtime resident of Saratoga Springs and the only candidate on the ballot for any office who is a registered member of the Working Families Party, and I'm also a longtime member of the League of Women Voters. I'm a lifelong progressive and third-generation union member. During the Civil Rights era, I worked on food and clothing drives to support Black families in Mississippi and was a literacy volunteer at the Harriet Tubman Center in Hempstead, Long Island, tutoring Black elementary school students in reading skills. My values are working families' values. They include freedom to make a decent living, regardless of social status, ethnicity, or family origin, freedom of speech, the right to decent, affordable housing, and the right to be free from tyrannical governments like the one currently in power in Washington. I yield my time.
Thank you. Dylan Moran.
Good evening. Thank you. My name's Dylan Moran. I'm currently the Commissioner of Accounts for the City of Saratoga Springs. I was born and raised in the City of Saratoga and presently live on Lake Avenue with my wife and our dogs. I love this city with all my heart. And 4 years ago, I started a journey to serve the community. I've been fortunate enough to serve the last 3.5 years. And I'm very proud of the initiatives that I've brought forward, the promises that I've made, and it looks like I'm getting some buffering here. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Sorry.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, I'm getting a buffering. So the accomplishments that I've done are in line with the promises that I made when I ran for government. I've brought forward initiatives that help our businesses step out of the influence of COVID. I have brought forward and actually changed our zoning and comprehensive plans to facilitate the building of 220 workforce housing units. My family, at least my father's side, immigrated to the United States in the late 50s, and we're one of the first families that settled in what is now known as Jefferson Terrace. I'm very committed to the working class of this city because I am one. I lived my whole life with folks that definitely lived on the quote unquote wrong side of the tracks. And as it's been for the last several years, this line has been co-opted by agents of the Republican Party. I'm stepping forward to represent the community that I've always represented, but I've also gone through the legitimate process of being endorsed by the state Working Family Party. I've gone through background checks and interviews. I'm proud of the opportunity to serve the Working Family Party through my representation on this line, because I think it's important that everyone has a voice at the table. And I will represent those voices as I have for the last 4 years.
Thank you. Now it is time for questions. The candidates will have up to 1.5 minutes to respond to the questions. You are not required to respond to the questions, and you may pass if you wish. Each candidate will be afforded 2 opportunities to request an additional minute during the question and answer session for a rebuttal to explain an answer. Please hold up your hand and wait to be acknowledged by me before you begin your extra minute. This may only be done during the question and answer session. It may not be used during the closing statements. Questions will be directed to the candidates in rotation so that each candidate gets a chance to respond first. Feel free to ask me to repeat the question if needed. The first question is, what are the most significant roles of the Commissioner of Accounts? And we will start with Joseph Levy.
Well, in its most basic form, the Commission of Accounts is the tax collector and also pays vendors, also issues permits, and works on the city council in a legislative capacity. I yield my time.
The question is, what are the most significant roles of the Commissioner of Accounts?
So I need to correct Mr. Levy. We do not collect taxes. That is the Department of Finance. I am the Chief Central Revenue Officer of the city. I am the assessor for the city of Saratoga Springs, which gives us the basis to levy taxes on the city. I am the purchasing manager. I do not pay vendors. That would again be the Department of Finance. I'm the Chief Risk and Safety Manager for the city. Essentially, I manage our insurance portfolio. I am our registrar of vital records. You'll come and interface with my office if you need a birth certificate, death certificate, marriage certificate, a lot of different personal items. I'm also the city clerk. I do issue the licensure and regulations for our entire hospitality district, from bars and restaurants through hotels. And most recently, I passed the first comprehensive short-term rental legislation in our city's history, something that has drastically impacted affordability and availability of housing in our community. This is a very progressive step for housing. And again, something in the legislative role that I hold that I'm very proud to have done.
We'll now go on to the second question. What are the biggest challenges facing the Commissioner of Accounts, and how would you manage them? Dylan Moran?
Well, at present, that's as a question as a manager, I think the biggest challenge that's facing any department in the city right now is the availability of quality workers. Unfortunately, the municipal government does not pay on par with private industry. And as such, we're challenged to consistently find good people for the roles that we have. With that, we have an outdated job specs across the board where I feel, unfortunately, a number of people within our hierarchy are just underpaid. So the challenge as a manager of keeping a functioning department, whether you're the Commissioner of Public Safety or the Commissioner of Public Works or the mayor or myself as Commissioner of Accounts, really is people, because 85% of our revenue goes to paying for salaries, and we're a service organization in its basic sense. So people are what make us special, and they are also the biggest challenge.
Thank you.
Can you repeat that, please?
Levy, yeah, I can. The question is, what are the biggest challenges facing the Commissioner of Accounts, and how would you manage them?
I think, a congenial work environment, fundraising. It's correct. People are not as well paid in government as they are in private enterprise, and fundraising for the new firehouse, for the new proposed police station. A lot of this is city council business, and that's part of the legislative aspect of being the commissioner.
Thank you. Dylan, did you want to use your red card now?
Yeah, I just need to address something that Mr. Levy said. It is illegal for me to fundraise for anything for the city of Saratoga Springs. So the suggestion that anyone on the city council or myself is soliciting private funding to facilitate mechanisms of government is false. We have to generate revenue. We cannot solicit private donations to build a police station. We have to make the responsible choices within our budget process to spend within our means. We have to recognize the needs of the community in totality and make the appropriate choices. It's a tough time right now, and we're going to have tough choices ahead of us because we have a 18th century city and it's 2025, and we get 4 inches of a storm, and our stormwater systems are 180 years old.
Thank you. Move on to question number 3. Real estate property in Saratoga Springs has not been reassessed for several years. Are you in favor of a reassessment, and how would you go about it? Joseph Levy?
I think we could do a selective reassessment. I'm amazed at the cost of some of the condos that have been built downtown, and I wonder, how are they actually being assessed, and is it a fair assessment? How does it affect revenue overall? I don't think we have to reassess the entire city. That's fairly expensive, and people who've been here a long time, like myself, are living in areas that have become gentrified, and a reassessment could easily put the squeeze on us long-timers financially. I yield.
Thank you. The question is, real estate property in Saratoga Springs has not been reassessed for several years. Are you in favor of a reassessment, and how would you go about it? Dylan Moran?
The need to reassess our city is an eventuality. It's inevitable. Again, Mr. Levy does not have the facts correct. We cannot selectively reassess any area. That's actually illegal by the state of New York. In order to be the commissioner of accounts, you have to be a licensed assessor. So I'll just assume he's not familiar with the law. But that being said, since getting into office, what I definitely notice is there's inequities within the role. When the city was last reassessed in 2008, it was a manual process. Since getting into office, I've implemented technology where we begin to identify and add property to the roll that hasn't previously been captured. We put over $150 million on the roll in the last 3 years, which is about 60% better than the prior average. That's generated more tax revenue without having to raise anybody else's taxes. We do need fairness, because what Mr. Levy says is absolutely true. Folks who've lived here for a long time should not have their ability to live in this city be affected by the fact that we've become gentrified. And so I'm going for accuracy. I'm trying to provide a full accounting of all the property that's out there before we make any steps to make an adjustment. Now, using the technology that I am using and bringing us into a digital age, I've brought us to a digital age from a paper system. I'll stop right now.
Thank you so much. The question number 4 is, what differentiates you as a candidate? What unique qualities would you bring to this role? Are there aspects of your education and experience that you would feel would be especially helpful in this position? Dylan Moran?
Well, that's kind of a softball because I am in the position. So I think that I do know what the job takes. with all due respect, I originally ran for office to be Commissioner of Public Works. I'm a chemical engineer by degree. I've spent a considerable amount of my professional career involved in the field of water, whether that's water, wastewater, or various elements of water within industrial processes. And that spoke to me. Ultimately, my predecessor, John Frank, was unable to run for reelection, and he explained to me the complexity of the role. I also am a small business owner and have personal and professional exposure into the hospitality industry. I grew up in this town. I'm the only native on the Saratoga Springs City Council. I know what we looked like in the 70s. I grew up in the shadow of the track. I understand how far we've come and what makes us special. Um, our small businesses are the lifeblood of who we are as an identity. They're also our neighbors. And anyone who's in small business in the city of Saratoga Springs understands that if they need help, they can come to me because I will help them. I've walked that walk. I've lived it. I understand what a payroll looks like. And I bring that same sentiment to work every day. I respect the work of my employees in my department. We have a tremendous team, and we look to give the best that we can to the community when they come to us for service every day.
Thank you. Joseph Levy, the question is, what differentiates you as a candidate? What unique qualities would you bring to this role? Are there aspects of your education and experience that you feel would be especially helpful in this position?
Well, I should mention that I've worked at all levels of government, local, state, and federal. I worked at the New York City Addiction Services Agency, the New York State Bureau of Historic Sites, and the U.S. Department of Commerce Census Bureau. Privately, I've worked for an inventory auditing service and a research institute that was a spun-off from Columbia University. I was also the executive director of the Saratoga Arts Workshop, a predecessor of the current Saratoga Arts Organization, where I supervised part-time faculty of over 24 artists, musicians, and other performers. In that capacity, I organized concerts, exhibitions, and was the producer of the Saratoga Craft Fair at the Saratoga Racecourse. For over 20 years, I was the owner and manager of a specialty audio manufacturing and retail business, where I handle all of the accounts as well as providing customer service. So in total, I have over 40 years of experience in government, private, and nonprofit business activities.
Question number 5. Is there any particular issue that motivates you to serve as Commissioner of Accounts? Joseph Levy?
I'm really motivated by the legislative aspect of the position, dealing with the homeless population, panhandlers on Broadway, the paid parking issue, and so on. I'm also concerned about the threat of ICE coming in and grabbing people off the street in their homes and schools and work without due process. I don't think the city council has addressed this. I'm concerned about how we're going to raise funds to pay for the firehouse maintenance, how we're going to pay for the proposed police department.
Thank you. The question is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve as Commissioner of Accounts? Dylan Moran?
For me, it's a very personal reason. Having grown up in this city, having had the opportunities presented to me to become who I have in life, I personally don't see that pathway available for someone with my background. And what do I mean by that? I don't think the housing exists for a young family with a young child to settle in the city of Saratoga Springs. And with that, raise a child. We know since I took office, the average price of a home has increased over $250,000. Our class sizes are shrinking. That's unsustainable. So there are a lot of issues facing this community. The homeless issue is one that is very prevalent. I'm proud of the work that we did in standing up the first homeless shelter in the history of our city. It's passing its 2-year anniversary today. We've treated over 218 people, and 68% of them have had a positive outcome. And at the moment, we're faced with the specter of having to close that because members of the current city council don't believe we can afford a homeless shelter, but we can afford a $50 million police station. I think that thinking is perverse. I think that we need to understand what our responsibilities are as a community in taking care of the least of us. That is a reflection of who we are. And so it's serving the people, and among those people, the least of us right now really need a hand up. And so you're going to hear me advocating and speaking strongly to make sure that we maintain and stay open the homeless shelter.
Thank you very much. Question number 6. How would you handle a city policy that you personally disagree with? Dylan Moran?
Boy, I'm the person who often is put in the position of trying to hold people to policy. I'm purchasing manager. Um, this term, people routinely and regularly violate purchasing policy left and right. I think you have to pick your battles. Unfortunately, this form of government pits us against each other on a regular basis. It is not normal. Um, Drastic changes are needed in this form of government. We are ineffectual with the use of technology. We have people with the best of intentions who are not put in the position to be successful. And that needs to be remedied because, as I mentioned, with the challenge of people, motivating and retaining good people is a challenge. And again, I can only look at the vile, toxic political situation that we're in right now, where a particular political party is more hell-bent on personal destruction and false accusations than they are on bringing forward ideas on how to run our city. I'm proud to have brought forward many pieces of legislation that have become codified and refined, outdoor dining being one of them, short-term rentals, which are being implemented now, and come fall, we'll have ideas around version 2 and further restrictions. I will continue to work hard for the men and women who make up our small business district as well as their workers. And again, in respect to, keep going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The question is, how would you handle a city policy that you personally disagree with? Joseph Levy.
It's really hypothetical. I think it's a situation by situation well, it's situational. In other words, it really depends on the policy. Is there a middle ground with that you can achieve with other council members, or is it something that you're just never going to be able to agree on? And I think congeniality and willing to compromise is what we really need to think about in those situations.
Thank you. Dylan Moran, would you like to use your second red card?
I would actually. I know I didn't quite hit that mark on that last question. I've had the benefit of being on the opposite end of a couple of 4-1 votes. I'd bring attention to a couple of them. During my first term, they voted to the rest of the city council to strip our risk and safety manager out of my department. In doing so, we really lost the trust of our insurer. And at the time, I made the statement at the city council table that if you do this, we're going to lose our insurer, and it's going to cost us an extra $1 million, extra $1.5 million a year. I'm not happy about being right, but I am happy about having made the right vote. I recently voted against the placement of what I can only define as really invasive technology that's going to start tracking people's movements, their license plate information. And the person that brought forward and passed that vote didn't even understand the technology agreement he was signing and the rights that that company has to all the imagery that they're going to take of our citizens conducting business and their livelihoods in our city.
Thank you.
And I'm proud to have voted for, again, 1-4
Thank
against
you.
that vote.
Thank you. Question number 7. With severe weather events more frequent, tornadoes, torrential downpours. How would you prepare for damage to essential records, financial and vital records that are under your care, the care in this position? Joseph Levy?
This comes under the heading of cybersecurity. We also have a problem with the potential for data hacking and ransomware. We need to have backup systems that are disconnected from the internet, that cannot be hacked. And these systems need to be in a secure location, not necessarily in the city. There are services in what's referred to as the cloud, where we can store this data and retrieve it if we need to. I yield.
Thank you. The question is, with severe weather events, more frequent tornadoes and torrential downpours, etc., how would you prepare for damage to essential records, financial and vital, that would be under your care in this position? Dylan Moran?
Sure. I'd first like to say that the IT department falls under the Commissioner of Finance, but as Chief Record Retention Officer, I am responsible for all records within the city. When I came into office, our entire assessment record system was paper. Over $6 billion worth of real estate value was in metal files standing up in the room, and somehow had survived the events of the lightning strike and everything that precipitated after that. How we dodged that bullet, I'll never know. But during my first term, I was able to completely digitize the assessment records of the city of Saratoga Springs, something I'm incredibly proud of, the work that my department did. We're presently working to help digitize the building department because they're kind of hand in glove in the way they need to work. We are drastically behind when it comes to information systems, and that's a problem that's common to government because of the expenditure, the cycle of maturation of systems, and government classically can't keep up with that technology cycle. And so we need to continue investing, but investing wisely. And so we reach out and try and transition best practices. And again, we're looking to bring technology to bear to help us work smarter, not harder. We have plenty of people who work hard. We need to get more done with the folks that we have. And again, technology is the way that we're going to do that. And again, with that, you do have the ability to displace it, put it off site.
Thank you. Question number 8. Should problems such as the city's outdated water system be a priority to be addressed during the next year? And if so, how would you go about this? Dylan Moran?
I absolutely think it should. So our dam, which we're presently, and I was proud, I was acting in the Department of Public Works' role while it remained empty, and the City Council debated filling that role. We awarded the contract in essentially repairs to our dam, which was rated the third worst in the state of New York. To have lost that dam would fundamentally destroy our city in many, many, many ways. So having done that, the second worst scenario, or rather most expensive issue that we have, throughout the west side of Saratoga Springs, there was pipe that was laid between 1905 and 1910. It's roughly 20 miles of 4-inch pipe. That pipe is heavily occluded, which means it's rusting and closing in on itself. When one of those pipes clogs itself, it will be incredibly hard to find and repair. Many, many, many people could be without water for months on end, and I don't mean to throw kind of fear monger out there, but it is serious. And that scenario played itself out on Woodlawn Avenue 15 years ago with those row houses that burned down. They could not fight that fire because they could not get enough water through the pipe. And so when our men and women who run into burning buildings don't have enough water to fight that fire, I would say that's an urgent thing that needs to be brought forward.
Thank you. Thank you. The question is, should problems such as the city's outdated water system be a priority to be addressed during the next year? And if so, how would you go about that? Joseph Levy?
Sure, it is a priority. I would work with the Public Works Department, do an assessment of where the oldest and least viable pipes are located and make those the priority for replacement. It's hard to say what that's going to cost. It certainly isn't going to be cheap, but it's going to be worse if we don't have water to fight fires. It's going to be worse if we get massive water main bursts or breaks. And this is something that is going to affect the whole city. Loss of pressure and loss of clean drinking water. So yes, it is a priority, and we have to work on a logical method for replacing those pipes.
Thank you. The next question is, what impact does the Commissioner of Accounts have on the city's budget process? How would you determine your budget priorities? Joseph Levy?
I'd work with all the other members of the council. Everyone has their own budget priorities, and we have to sit down and decide, well, what's practical? How much money is coming in? What can we spend? Look at the lines that have to be filled. These are mainly employees, mostly personnel. And what's left over for maintenance and for continuing improvement of the physical plant in the city. I yield.
Thank you. Question is, what impact does the Commissioner of Accounts have on the city's budget process, and how would you determine your budget priorities? Dylan Moran?
So the accounts department is interesting. We have singular direct responsibility to 5 different authorities within the state of New York, from the Department of Health to the Department of State, to the Office of Real Property Tax Services. And yet within that, we have the smallest budget. We generate essentially all of the variable revenue that doesn't come in through state sources, that type of thing, funding or grants of that nature. Real property taxes are created as a result of the assessment process, the licensing of taxi cabs through restaurants and bars, through hotels and motels, and soon to be short-term rentals, generates a tremendous amount of revenue through sales and bed tax. So oftentimes, I'm a voice of reason about really what is the true revenue number, because you can't spend what you don't have. We do have to budget to revenue neutral. And Commissioner of Finance and Commissioner of Accounts are different sides of the same coin. And I really appreciate the work that I've done over the last 3 years with Commissioner Sangvi. She tends to be economically conservative. I definitely am a glass half full guy, and we have spirited conversations, but they've been very valuable. And I'm proud of the work that we've done together. I've continued to drive revenue in a positive direction, which helps us pay those bills. So what is my role? My role is to stuff money in the cash register.
Next question. How would you deal with problems related to transparency in the departments you would oversee? Dylan Moran?
Well, I don't think anyone in the history of the accounts department has responded to as many foils as I have. I have nothing to hide, folks. I've lived here my whole life. I'm serving because I love this city, and I want to make sure that we do the best for them. Unfortunately, that process of providing transparency has been weaponized. Accusations have consistently been made against us that have been proven false. We've wasted a tremendous amount of money on false investigations, and there's no one that has any more clarity to what's going on. Anybody wants to come in and talk to me, the door is open. I've never refused a meeting with anybody. I'm completely transparent. I help people of every political persuasion, color, and creed. And I'm proud of the work that I do for the city of Saratoga Springs because I represent everyone. I enforce ethical standards and professional standards within the Office of the Department of Accounts. We often deal with very personal information, and we treat that with the greatest sanctity that we can when dealing with individuals, particularly those experiencing loss. And again, not a lot of people are happy to come and see the assessor. And so the folks that take care of people on that side of it, very sensitive to people's needs, we want to understand the issue and help them. And so really transparency comes with positive intent and a willingness to collaborate and work together. And that's something I try and embody every day.
Thank you. Thank you. Question is, how would you deal with problems related to transparency in the departments you would oversee? Joseph Levy?
It's pretty straightforward. People ask for data through the Freedom of Information law, and you provide it. People want to speak to you on the phone or in person, and you make time for them. It's as simple as that.
Thank
I
you.
yield.
The next question, do you believe the Working's Family Party should have an active capital region chapter? And if so, how would that impact your involvement with the party? Joseph Levy?
Well, there actually is an active Capital Region chapter. It's it's based in Albany, and most of the officers and staff are oriented toward politics in Albany and Schenectady. But there's certainly room to expand to Saratoga.
Thank you. The question is, do you believe the Working's Family Party should have an active Capital Region chapter? And if so, how would that impact your involvement with the party?
I absolutely believe it should. As I mentioned previously, this line in Saratoga Springs has been attacked multiple times by the Republican Party and members of the Conservative Party. 2 election cycles ago, more than 40 people registered as members of the Working Family Party to effectively take it over. Mr. Levy registered as a Working Family Party member on February 14th, 2025. Seems similar. But again, what it is why do we want to have a party to have a voice on the margins? Because when you have 2 big parties involved, those parties sit at the table and no one else does. Prior to getting into office, there were racial unrest across the city, and they were magnified in the city of Saratoga Springs. I watched members of Black Lives Matter plead with the government over a variety of issues, and I saw our government completely incapable of engaging in conversation with them. I made it, a mission of mine to establish a relationship with them and members of other similarly aligned parties. One, so that hopes when I was in government, they'd have somebody that they could talk to, because yelling at each other through bullhorns never solved anything. But instead of yelling through bullhorns, I got them to understand that the seat at the table comes with the politics involved with being a part of the Working Family Party. And I'm proud that they have put themselves in that
Thank you.
position.
Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to use your red card, Joseph?
Yes, it's
Okay.
true. I registered at the last minute, but I'm one of those refugees from the Green Party. I've been a lifelong progressive. I was a member of the Green Party for 20 years. And when Andrew Cuomo passed legislation to basically disenfranchise the small and minor progressive and conservative parties, I looked for another home. I'm not the only refugee from the Green Party who switched to working families. And I resent the implication that somehow I'm trying to be an interloper.
Thank you. Next question. Do you see weaknesses in how the city currently addresses issues related to fraud, waste, and abuse? And if so, what steps would you take to correct this? Dylan Moran?
I don't think the city takes very many steps whatsoever to address fraud, waste, and abuse. We have amateurs potentially coming in to run departments every 2 years. They're outside of my office where there's a requirement for me to go through, which took me 2.5 years to earn the license to be assessor. There is no prerequisite of knowledge. We've had people of a variety of different backgrounds work in these jobs. None of them necessarily have a background in understanding process. I happen to. As an engineer with Six Sigma Black Belt, I walk through and look at the processes of the city and am offended on a daily basis. In the city of, or rather in the accounts department, we've worked hard to streamline our processes, make things more effective. As I said, we've digitized large portions of our of our department already, and that's under my direction and management. We brought on an incredibly skilled technologist to be in the role of records management, and that's a role we did not really have before. It was a paper system and someone who was familiar with managing that paper system. Well, that paper system is going to be digital. And again, we're going to continue to move in that direction.
Thank you. The question is, do you see weaknesses in how the city currently addresses issues related to fraud, waste, and abuse? And if so, what steps would you take to correct this? Joseph Levy?
It seems like if there is that much fraud, waste, and abuse, we probably should have some sort of an inspector general with the power to just take a magnifying glass to the different departments and the different projects. It really comes down to the form of government. I mean, we have 5 little fiefdoms when I would rather see a legislative body, the city council, transformed into a purely legislative body with the ability to solicit resumes and act more to hire people and more who have better qualifications overall, and keep an eye on, keep tabs on how money is spent.
Thank you. Our next question is, why has it been so difficult to locate a permanent 24/7 year-round low-barrier homeless shelter in Saratoga Springs? And what needs to be done to remedy this? Joseph Levy?
This is one of those NIMBY, not in my backyard problems. People don't want it because they think that the low barrier shelter is a no barrier shelter, but that's not true. Low barrier doesn't mean no barrier. And so you get people who are promoting the idea that it's going to be a haven for sexual predators or miscreants or, bisexual axe murderers. And so this proposal keeps getting kicked around from one neighbor to another and one piece of property to another. It's sad, but it's true.
Thank you.
I yield.
Thank you. The question is, why has it been so difficult to locate a permanent 24/7 year-round low-barrier homeless shelter in Saratoga Springs, and what needs to be done to remedy this? Dylan Moran?
I think Mr. Levy is correct that for quite a while, there has been an NIMBY element to it. Unfortunately, there's only so much land to develop within the city of Saratoga Springs. Inevitably, someone's going to be unhappy. The bigger problem at hand, though, is there are people who don't believe in it. There are people who do not believe that we need a low barrier shelter. There are people in my city council who believe it's more important to build a police station than it is to have a place to help the least of us. As I said, when I took office, people were sleeping in the streets in the parking garage. Through the leadership of Mayor Kim and the benevolence of Sonny and Julie Bonaccio, we were able to change that situation. And we presently sit here at the precipice of that going away. Why? Our present mayor does not think the approach is acceptable. He believes people need to be sober before we help them. I don't care what he believes. I listen to the experts and I look at the results. We have had a compassionate hand out to meet people where they are when they're ready to take that first step. That continuum of care from the lowest of low barrier, which is code blue, through supportive housing has to exist or we cannot stem this tide. And without that low barrier shelter, without that consistent continuum of care, we will fail.
Thank you. So this will be our last question before closing statements. Why should the voters choose you to be the candidate on the Working Families Party line for the Commissioner of Accounts? Dylan Moran?
Well, first and foremost, I'm the most experienced Commissioner of Accounts on this present debate. No offense aside, Mr. Levy. But seriously, folks, I've had 4 years to learn this role. I've delivered on every single thing I brought forward and promised to do for this community, and my work is not done. I am presently implementing the first short-term rental registration and regulation system in our city's history. It's long overdue. I will finish that work. With it will come a modicum of accountability within our neighborhoods. And with that, a lessening of this negative impacts. Come fall, I'm going to bring forward ideas for further regulation if we feel that those are warranted after this summer. I believe further regulations will be necessary. Beyond that, I've shown an ability to enhance our economy like no one prior. I'm very proud of the results that we've shown in revenue generation year over year since I've gotten into office. And with that, I'm confident that the next 2 years will move in the right direction if I'm the Commissioner of Accounts. With that, I ask you to support me as I am the state endorsed Working Family Party candidate. I went through a long process. I did not register on the 14th of February to become a candidate in March. I'm someone that understands the Working Family Party in Saratoga Springs. I've worked with them side by side. I've knocked on doors.
Thank you. The question is, why should the voters choose you to be the candidate on the Working Families Party line for Commissioner of Accounts? Joseph Levy?
Well, for starters, I'm a registered member and intend to be for as long as the Working Families Party is in existence. As far as the learning curve goes, every job has a learning curve. I've had a number of professional jobs over the years, and I've risen to the occasion. I've had over 40 years of experience in government, private and nonprofit business activities. I know how government works from the inside and what it takes to provide a productive work environment that provides the services you paid for and expect. I yield.
Thank you. It is now time for closing statements, and candidates, you will have no more than 1 minute each. The first to speak will be Dylan Moran.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity to speak tonight. I'd like to thank everyone that has tuned in. I'd like to thank Mr. Levy for his time and thoughts. Again, I stand before you as I have a few times prior. I'm asking to be the candidate on the Working Family Party line because I know that I'm the candidate that best embodies the minority neighborhoods and other marginalized and affected community members like no other can. I've walked the streets with you. I've sat down and spoken with you. You know we work together. You know who cares. This city isn't the city it is without you. Our city has existed for a very long time, and one thing is consistently true. Our economy doesn't exist without the labors of people in brown and black skin. I will use my agency to stand up and represent you. I will stand up and fight those fights.
Thank you. Next is Joseph Levy.
Well, I pretty much had my say in the last, in response to the last opportunity. I will say I've lived here for 50 years. I've seen the city change from basically a desert on Broadway to a thriving metropolis. And I've seen it in some ways become a victim of its own success. I think Saratoga's success needs to be extended to younger families, to people who are newly arrived in this country, newly arrived in Saratoga. And I'll do my best to make sure that happens.
So thank you all very much for participating. I'm reminding everyone listening to please vote on June 24th if you're eligible. Since this is a primary election, you must be a resident of the city of Saratoga Springs and a member of the Working Families Party in order to vote in this primary. On July 24th, ballots may be cast between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. at either the Rec Center or the City Center. To check your polling location and to find details on early and absentee voting, please go to the website of the Saratoga County Board of Elections, which is at saratogacounty.gov. And they'll
Early
direct
voting
you.
is June 14th to June 22nd.
Thank you. The League
at
of
the rec center.
The League of Women Voters Vote 411 site is 411.org. We'll also have that information. We'll also have a link of this broadcast after it's recorded. I would like to thank the candidates for participating in this event and for helping to educate the voters in the city of Saratoga Springs. And I want to thank the public for submitting questions and our viewers who have taken the time to watch this event and learn more about the candidates. Thank you all very much and good night.